Jackie Neri Arias, and I'm the director of the Multicultural Center. Welcome to the second of the Multicultural Center's dialogue series, Living with Uncertainty, DACA and Undocumented Students. Thank you all for making time to engage in this important dialogue on a summer Friday afternoon. Special thanks to everyone who participated in the creation of the dialogues, including today's facilitators, El Centro staff, and the Undocumented. Before we begin, I would like to review the order of today's events and community guidelines. You can also see the order of today's events in the chat. Please note that this dialogue is being recorded and will be shared on the Multicultural Center's YouTube channel. Second, please note that this is a dialogue and not a panel discussion. The facilitators have statements prepared, but we strongly encourage you to actively engage throughout the dialogue, out loud or in the chat box. After the statements, we will break into smaller groups and a facilitator will have questions prepared for your group. At the end, we will come together for closing statements and a poem. While this is meant to be a civil dialogue, there may be points of discomfort. We encourage you to question where that discomfort comes from and to delve into a respectful conversation with other participants. June was Immigrant Heritage Month, an annual celebration of the work and contributions that immigrants and their children have made in shaping the history, strengthening the economy, and enriching the culture of the United States. On June 18th of this year, we heard the surprising of undocumented youth hope. Unfortunately, we have also seen cruel and inhumane policies regarding unaccompanied minors, international students, and is important. We must also remember the real lives and stories of those living with an uncertain immigration status, which in turn calls us to act. With that, I open the floor to Melissa Martinez and Maria Gutierrez, who have put together a context for today's dialogue. We will follow this way.
Since 2001, there has been pressure on Congress to pass federal legislation known as the DREAM Act, an initiative which would protect young immigrants who are vulnerable to deportation by means of granting conditional permanent residence, then lawful permanent residence, and finally, naturalization. Variations of the DREAM Act have been proposed, and according to the American Immigration Council, some have garnered as many as 48 co-sponsors in Senate and 152 in the House. But despite bipartisan support for this legislation, including in 2010 when it fell just 5 House of Representative votes short of the 60 needed to proceed in the Senate, not one has become law. In early 2012, former President Barack Obama spoke about Congress's failure to pass the DREAM Act. He asserted that, in light of this, the Department of Homeland Security would launch a temporary program to defer the deportation of those deemed not to pose a risk to national security or public safety. Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, also known as DACA, was referred to by Obama as a temporary stopgap measure that lets us focus our resources wisely while giving a degree of relief and hope to talented, driven, patriotic young people. Although the program does not yield a pathway to citizenship, between 2012 and June 2019, more than 900,000 people have received protection under DACA status at least once. An opportunity which has afforded them the right to live, work, study, and contribute in a plethora of ways to U.S. American society, a place they call home. DACA approvals were largely concentrated in California and Texas, but a considerable number also came from our own state of Illinois. After the 2016 presidential election of Donald Trump, Attorney General Jeff Sessions had alleged that DACA's enactment was an open-ended circumvention of immigration laws and an unconstitutional exercise of authority by the executive branch. The Trump administration promptly announced a wind down of the program, which would cease the acceptance of new applications and require a near future halt on renewals. A federal judge in the U.S. District Court in San Francisco temporarily and partially blocked the Trump administration's action, ruling that it had to continue processing DACA renewals in the midst of ongoing legal proceedings, ultimately prompting the Trump administration to request review by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled in favor of DACA recipients in June 2020, a highly favorable decision for many, which would uphold the integrity of the program to the fullest scope. However, the threats made against our nation's immigrant community are alive and well, leaving many, undocumented, documented, or otherwise, feeling betrayed, insecure, disregarded, and uncertain about their futures in the United States. A core tenet of the Sinsinawa Dominican Sisters' educational philosophy was to give the opportunities of higher education to the many, with the understanding that neither wealth, nor age, nor race would be of any advantage or provide a hindrance. Today, Dominican University is one of the most diverse private four-year institutions in the state of Illinois, and one of the first universities in the country to publicly welcome and financially support students regardless of immigration status. As an institution whose mission, vision, and values affirm the dignity of the human person and concern for the common good, we believe strongly that immigration is an issue of human rights and well-being, and that we must dismantle the white supremacist notions that surround it. We are compelled by our heritage to advocate for and walk alongside students, families, and other members of the university community who face uncertain futures because they are undocumented or otherwise targeted because of their race, gender identity, sexuality, economic means, access to basic resources, or national origin. We have long regarded DACA as a temporary but humane step on the way to comprehensive immigration reform, and we deem the renewed vindication of the program as a success. Nonetheless, the June 2020 decision indicates clearly that this work is only beginning, underscoring the need to work collaboratively towards comprehensive immigration reform. Dominican University, in honor of its inclusive beginnings, long-standing commitment to truth and justice, and willingness to address its historical shortfalls and oversights, will be actively engaged in efforts to drive and pass robust legislation which humanely reforms immigration law and addresses the racist structures that serve as its foundation. We stand ready, committed to the actionable items outlined in our recently revised Sanctuary Campus Covenant, and we ask you to join us in these efforts so that we can embrace our collective responsibility in the creation of a more just and humane world for both our students and greater global community. Thank you.
I'm going to invite the students from UIA to read their statements.
Hello everyone, I'm Zuli. I am a current sophomore and a UIA member. We are in a time where people are feeling bold to say things without caring who they may hurt. We have a current president who has encouraged a particular community to do certain actions and continue racist acts. But as a community, we should continue to stand up and show others what is right and what is not. Sometimes we have to bring up hard conversations within our own family that may not be in our comfort zone. That is how we can truly achieve change and continue to achieve and be an active activist. We might be more open-minded than our parents, our siblings, but there is nothing wrong with teaching them a little more. Just a couple nights ago, a few words were said that may have seemed as if it wouldn't impact me. Those words were, "School isn't important, I will make it farther because of my status." When I heard these words, it really did break me because school is a privilege. I couldn't stay quiet and I had to say something. I could have let it go, but I knew that that mindset would continue in a space that I call home if I didn't say something. That was when I told my parents to bring my siblings together for a talk. In tears, I expressed my feelings towards a simple sentence that was said without thought. I said, "I understand you, my siblings, have a status in this country that I may not necessarily have, but it is still important to know that we should continue to work hard. Having a status in the US can definitely open many doors, but not everything will be handed to you. It makes me sad that you guys believe school isn't important because indeed, the SCOTUS decision would have, if it would have ruled the other way, I could in fact be leaving right now. Or I could be dropping college because I couldn't afford it, and it wouldn't matter how hard I work to get where I am. But you have a status that will continue to open more doors for you, and you can help out our family more than I can. I know that there are many youth students and DACA students that may have siblings that are citizens, but please know that we are with you. Sometimes they might not be able to see things the way that we do because a simple status has pushed us to be more hardworking people. Don't be afraid to tell them about how you are feeling and those things that you are striving for. If we are quiet to our own loved ones about how we feel, they might continue to say things that they think might not hurt us deeply. I encourage you all to have these out of the comfort zone conversations and become open with your families, peers, and friends. Even itself at Dominican, if you feel uncomfortable about something that was said, don't be afraid to reach out to Jackie, me, or anyone you trust. Dominican has a campus covenant that is here for a reason. It is here to protect our students, and it should be enforced.
My name is Ulises. I am a second-year student. I'm also part of UIA. The recent decision by the United States Supreme Court on DACA recipients cannot come at a more enlightening time for us, or at least for me. Since the beginning of March, I have, for the most part, sat in my bedroom passing the time by either watching TV or reading the news. This has not been the most exciting 2020, but it has been a very enlightening time. As I sit in my room reading about the social and economic systems of this country, I watch as this pandemic strongly highlights the systemic oppressions that occur in our day-to-day lives. It seems as if every day I learn about a new case in which a cop used excessive force on a civilian, or that an immigrant worker was harassed for asking a customer to wear a mask. What 2020 highlights the most is just how easily polarized we have become. It doesn't take a college degree for one to understand that families belong together. This country is the only place many of us recognize, and the fact that our identity is in constant limbo just adds to the absurdity of how polarizing and racialized our everyday issues are. The latest SCOTUS ruling is a step in the right direction, but there's a lot more that needs to be done for the safety and the security of the 800,000 young undocumented citizens. It is absurd just how weak and broken this country's social contract is. Over the last 4 decades, we have seen inequality rise among the nation's poorest and wealthiest. This economic inequality has also highlighted just how serious our racial disparities have become throughout all the nation. We must continue to advocate and push our communities to enforce the security and safety that we deserve. We must continue fighting for the abolition of systemic oppressors and for the prosperity that American minorities rightfully deserve. The recent movement over police brutality has me hopeful that a more just and equal society is all reachable and within our grasp. We must continue to fight and mobilize against our oppressors for us to maintain the rights that we all fully deserve.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carlos Benitez. I am a senior here at DU, and I am the president of UIA. I'll be reading part of a piece I wrote for an op-ed for the Chicago Reporter. I remember the first time my sister got her DACA in 2012. My mom asked her how she felt, and she replied, "I feel like I exist." For her, along with countless others, this program validated our existence in this country. It gave us a glimpse of freedom. 3 years ago, the Trump administration rescinded that program and a hope it had brought. And for the last 2 years, we've been anxiously awaiting for the next federal judge to rule in favor of the administration. Every month, we've been preparing to go into panic mode and renew our documentation early to protect our jobs and our lives. Finally, until recently, we've anxiously awaited the Supreme Court to rule on the administration's decision to end the program. For the first time in a very long time, I feel that I can breathe, even though I know that this is only a momentary sigh of relief. The Supreme Court's decision on DACA was a good day for our community, but only that, a good day. For me, this ruling has given me the moment to reflect about the program and myself as an undocumented immigrant. First, I am reminded that DACA is not enough. Though I am grateful for what the program has allowed me and so many of my peers to do, I honestly still live in worry. I worry that my work permit will get lost in the mail. I worry that when the time comes to renew, I won't have the $495 to do so, because for a 21-year-old living in Chicago, paycheck to paycheck, having that much aside is impossible. DACA is flimsy and temporary, and we undocumented people deserve so much more. Second, I realize that unlike my sister, I do not yearn to be humanized. I yearn for justice. Thanks to the movement which created DACA, I am conscious And I came to consciousness knowing that I do deserve humanity and I don't have to prove it. Though I battle every day with the internalized xenophobia and the fear of being a bad immigrant, I still proudly stand and assert that I deserve better than what this country's rhetoric says I deserve. I became an activist following on the steps of the wonderful and fearless undocumented people. Activists, artists, street vendors, maintenance, and factory workers. They've taught me to be resourceful, proud, and unapologetic. No document will ever prove my worth. We've settled for DACA, but it's time to admit to ourselves that it is not enough. It will never be enough, and every undocumented person in this country deserves so much more than what DACA can offer. I am not your dreamer, but I have big dreams. I dream of immigration reform. I dream of the decriminalization of brown and Black bodies. I dream of abolishing ICE and abolishing the police. I dream of the liberation of Black people. I dream of a world beyond borders, and it is time for undocumented youth to stand firm and fight for the future that we deserve, a future built on the imperative of humanity and justice. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for sharing that. So now we are going to break into breakout rooms, and I am posting the questions in the chat box, so all of you should be able to see those. For the hosts, or for the facilitators, if you are again in one of the same rooms, then just please come back to the main room so I can assign you to a different room. And we will dialogue for about 30 minutes, and then I will bring you all back for a closing and a poem. All right, it looks like we have almost everyone back. So thank you all for dialoguing for the last 30 minutes. Now we are going to go ahead and close up with a statement from Carlos.
Hi, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us today in this dialogue. There are a couple things that I think we must continue to keep in mind, right? Since the Supreme Court's ruling on DACA, we've encountered several threats from the administration and the Department of Homeland Security. Namely, Trump has promised to end DACA once again. A memo released by DHS states that international students will be subject to deportation if their colleges go online for the fall. And most recently, ICE Field Director Robert Guiden announced a pilot program to train ordinary civilians to arrest undocumented immigrants. Continuously, the United States, our culture, and this administration has pressed very anti-immigrant rhetoric. I think Dominican University is at a very special place to continue to advocate for undocumented students, for Latino students, and for Black students as we fight for liberation. I urge you all to continue to inspect yourselves, inspect your curriculums, inspect your interactions, and make sure that as you're working towards liberation, we are uplifting one another. Thank you all for joining us in this dialogue as we continue to grow together. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. And before I end with the poem, I'd like you all to take a look at the Sanctuary Campus Covenant that I posted in the group chat. So now I will read Things We Carry on the Sea by Wang Ping. We carry tears in our eyes. Goodbye, Father. Goodbye, Mother. We carry soil in small bags. May home never fade in our hearts. We carry names, stories, memories of our villages, fields, boats. We carry scars from proxy wars of greed. We carry carnage of mining, droughts, floods, genocides. We carry dust of our families and neighbors incinerated in mushroom clouds. We carry our islands sinking under the sea. We carry our hands, feet, bones, hearts, and best minds for a new life. We carry diplomas, medicine, engineer, nurse, education, math, poetry, even if they mean nothing to the other shore. We carry railroads, plantations, laundromats, bodegas, taco trucks, farms, factories, nursing homes, hospitals, schools, temples built on our ancestors' backs. We carry old homes along the spine, new dreams in our chests. We carry yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We're orphans of the wars forced upon us. We're refugees of the sea rising from industrial wastes. And we carry our mother's tongues. I, Hub, Lib, Amor, Love, Ping, An, Salam, Shalom, Paz, Peace. Si Wang, Amal, Hofanong, Esperanza, Hope, Hope, Hope. As we drift in our rubber boats from shore to shore to shore. Thank you all very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.